right, we are live for the NFL Week 8 opening line report. And how about those Miami Dolphins? Hey, all wins counting as the same, right? Giants fans, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So, yeah, that was a tough watch, but I'm happy Miami walked away with the W. Not the cover, though, and the game easily went under. It looked like it was going to go over there for a bit, but the offenses got shut off in the second half. So, yeah, that's enough Dolphins talk. Let's bring in our guy, senior reporter. I'm on the East Coast. He's on the West Coast. Patrick Everson there in Las Vegas. So, Patrick, you'll have to forgive me. Usually at the conclusion of the Sunday Night Football game, I'm getting ready to hop into bed. So if I have trouble stringing together two words, I apologize for that. But how was your day here so far, Patrick? A lot going on. We're almost through week 7 here. Of course, that will conclude Monday Night Football. We'll discuss that later on. But how's your day going so far?
It's pretty good. It's been a good day. Fun day. I'm always out running around to the books on Saturdays and Sundays for college football and for NFL. So today was definitely a good time. And like some interesting outcomes. Obviously, that Buccaneers game was something else. The bookmakers will take that. They'll take that all day and twice on Sunday. But yeah, very interesting day and kind of an interesting finish there. The Dolphins didn't know how to work the clock very well and gave the Steelers another shot there, and the Steelers almost took advantage of it. So, yeah, interesting day. Really good, fun day. Always, and if it's Sunday in NFL, it's pretty much going to be a good day, no matter how busy it is.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel turned into a Nathaniel Hackett there for
yes,
the majority of that game. But they got lucky, and you need a couple of those ugly ones. I think the New York Giants have 6 ugly ones so far this season. And hey, a win's a win, right? So we'll take them. Okay, so let's get into week 8 here, Patrick. And let's talk about the first game in week 8. And kind of looking ahead to this game, you would have said, hey, finally, we have a pretty sexy matchup here for Thursday Night Football. Not so much anymore. We have the Baltimore Ravens. You can't really knock them too much. They squeaked one out against Cleveland. And, of course, they are in Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers, who have 2 just atrocious straight-up losses in back-to-back weeks. The biggest favorite of the week, I believe, this week. Who saw them lose? They only scored, I think, 3 points in that game? And then last week, I think they were the second biggest favorite of the week versus the Steelers, and they lost that game. So, yeah, this is going to be an interesting game betting-wise. So what are the lines looking like for this one?
Well, this is interesting. Every Sunday night I go back and forth with John Murray, the executive director of the Superbook, who gives me some good insights, not only on the opening lines, but where any of the early developments are, any movement, sharp action coming in early, that sort of thing. And he's calling this, he says, finally a good Thursday game. He's calling it a good Thursday game. Never mind what's happened the last 2 weeks with Buccaneers. It's relative to what we've been given the last few Thursdays, I think. So he's hoping for something better this week. But this was actually interesting. They opened the Buccaneers -1.5 at the Superbook, and he said, we wanted to open Bucs a small favorite because we think this is a backs to the wall type of spot for Tampa. But he said the sharp guys then came in right away, taking the Ravens, moved the Superbook to pick in a real big hurry here. So, the sharp guys are certainly not impressed with what they've seen out of the Bucs the last couple of weeks. It'll be interesting to see where the public goes as the week goes on here. If they'll jump on the Ravens, or generally the public is often remembers what it saw last. So if that pattern continues, this may be a situation where the sharps and the public are on the same side by the time we get to Thursday night. Short week, so we'll know soon enough.
Yeah, some real recency bias, perhaps. It would be very hard to pull the trigger on Tampa Bay in this game. Meanwhile, Baltimore, they're not all that consistent. They did squeak one out here, but they have some very ugly losses too. They had a really ugly fumble at the towards the end of that game. That cost me my over bet, Patrick. So I wasn't too happy about that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see the line movement on that one. The 43.5 total. I'd probably look at the under in that one personally. Both teams like to run the ball a lot, chewing up a lot of clock. And we know the troubles that Tampa Bay has had in the red zone. I haven't seen anything like it. Okay, moving right along here. So we have a handful of, I guess you call them noteworthy games here for week 8 that we're going to go through. So yeah, these teams played just a couple of weeks ago. And the 49ers had their way with the Rams, the defending Super Bowl champions, off to a sluggish start this season. I think their bye came at a pretty good time for them. That's probably when they needed their bye, right? Because they were kind of limping through the season. They did get that win versus Carolina going into that. Meanwhile, the 49ers, they absolutely manhandled them when they played a couple of weeks ago. The 49ers, they look like a different team every week of the season. It seems like they come out in games like that versus the Rams where they manhandled them and people said, okay, well, there's a Super Bowl contender, San Francisco 49ers. Meanwhile, they got it handed to them today by Kansas City. Not a whole lot of shame in that, but they also have some very ugly losses. They lost to the Bears, the Broncos. They lost to the Falcons. Kind of interesting. How do the Lions look for this one? Because, you got to think the Rams coming out of their bye, it's looks like a good spot for them, maybe.
It may be, and that's what the early sharp play indicates at the Superbook. This game opened Niners 2.5 tonight, Sunday night at the Superbook. And John Murray said out of the gate, we took a flurry of bets on LA and got knocked down to Rams +2 on this one pretty quickly. But he said, hey, everyone in our risk room thought the 49ers should be favored here. So the Niners dominated the first meeting between these teams, and the Rams have been very underwhelming all season. I can't argue with them being very underwhelming. And that's kind of, honestly, for my opening line report article, which will be up shortly after this podcast tonight on VegasInsider.com with all the games we're talking about and lots of details and so forth. It's kind of the overriding theme of the article from the jump is all these teams that we thought were going to be good this year, and now we're not sure if they're good. I mean, we talked about the Buccaneers. The Niners are definitely suspect, up and down, up and down. The Rams are certainly suspect, and some of the other teams we're going to talk about here soon in this conversation tonight are just more on the suspect train. So definitely an interesting game. I do think it's just, nothing to do with the spread or anything, but I do think it's pretty stupid the way that the NFL is aligning some of these division games and division rivals to be playing both games before you're even halfway into the season. We've already seen it with the Colts and Titans. We're seeing it now with the Rams and the Niners getting both our games out of the way early. These two teams were in the NFC Championship game last year. What's the purpose in Week 8 to have them facing each other, having faced each other twice already? I just think it's wacky scheduling making, and among two teams that should, if they get their act together, be right there at the end of the season when people would want to see a dynamic game between those two.
Yeah, it is a bit unusual. A very quick turnaround between those teams. And we know that Shanahan has typically had McVay's number. So it'll be interesting to see if that narrative continues in Week 8. So maybe the most marquee game here in Week 8. And I think if you were looking at the schedule at the start of the season, you'd probably pick this as one of your top 5 games of the entire season. Maybe not so much anymore, though. Of course, I'm talking about the Packers in Buffalo to take on the Bills. What's the line after this game? The Bills have to be favored by at least over a field goal, I would guess, right?
It's a lot more than that. Okay. I believe, if I saw correctly earlier tonight, if this number holds, it will be the first time that Aaron Rodgers was a double-digit dog. This is Bills 11. And what John Murray said at the Super Bowl, he said, I never thought I'd see the day that Aaron Rodgers would be getting 11 points. But he said that just shows how bad the Packers have been playing and how great the Bills are. And he noted, and this is important, Buffalo is also at home and off its bye week. He said it couldn't be a worse schedule spot for the Packers. He said it's not necessarily a really good schedule spot for the books either. He said every parlay and teaser all weekend will be running to Buffalo in the night game. And of course, this is the Sunday night game, prime time, capping the day next Sunday. So again, parlays, teasers, moneyline parlays, all that stuff is going to roll into Buffalo. So if the favorites, and it's been, hit and miss for some of these favorites over these last, really all season long, but if the favorites have a good day next Sunday during the day, the book is going to need Green Bay quite badly. Every book is probably going to need Green Bay quite badly on Sunday night.
So it looks like the Packers are the biggest underdog of the week here for Week 8?
That's a good question. I would have to go back and double check, but it's
know
probably
if
close.
The lines are out yet, but my God,
Is that
double-digit
amazing?
underdog.
How are the Packers the biggest underdog of week 8. It's incredible how the mighty have fallen. Crazy.
See here what.
Yeah, I'm just flipping through the odds
Yeah,
myself.
DraftKings has them as on their board right here. Well, they have the Bears at +10 in Dallas, but they have Green Bay +10.5. I don't know when the
Right.
last time they would have been the biggest underdog of the week. It would have been, like maybe one of their quarterbacks was injured or something like that. But
Sure. The
and that team has
1980s.
they have completely fallen off of a cliff.
Mhm,
And I was
mhm.
down on them coming into the season. Like, I'm not going to do a big victory lap. I just thought it was obvious that it was like, okay, you guys did an absolutely horrible job of trying to replace Devontae Adams, where it was something like over the past 4 seasons, I think it was like 27% of Aaron Rodgers' targets went to Devontae Adams, and they replaced him with the 8 receiver off the board in the draft, Sammy Watkins. Finally got back on the field today. It didn't make much of a difference. But yeah, that team's completely fallen off of a cliff, losing back to back to back to the Giants, Jets, and Commanders.
It's stunning, and they've lost 4 in a row against the spread. So 3 in a row straight up, 4 in a row against the spread, and and they should have won all 3 of those games. Probably, I mean, you would expect that they would win all 3 of those games. I mean, the Giants are maybe proving to be better than we thought. The Jets too, but I mean, when you're at home against the Jets, you got to win that game. So
Yes.
they probably should have won 2 at least of these, 2-1 worst case scenario. They've lost all 3, and now they got to go to Buffalo, which is easily the best team of this quartet.
Yeah.
Easily the best team. They could get trucked next week. It'll be interesting.
Okay. NFC East, Patriots, Jets. I'm sure the Jets are tired of the Patriots kicking their ass over the last decade and a half.
Yeah.
But now, the season ended right now, Patrick. The Jets would be 5th in the AFC. They would be in the playoffs. Now, of course, the Patriots still have to play a game here. I think by virtue of tiebreakers, they have a loss to the Dolphins, so they wouldn't be in. So are the Jets going to be favored versus the New England Patriots?
Well, they opened this at pick at the Superbook tonight.
Ooh, okay.
And John said we moved quickly to Patriots -1.5, which I was a little surprised by. But he said we moved quickly to Patriots -1.5 off a flurry of bets. So and I'm sure that was sharp money coming in, number pickers and so forth. But they liked that this was only at pick and felt like the Patriots. You got Mac Jones coming back and so forth, and they've accorded themselves, relatively speaking, with a backup quarterback pretty well the last couple of weeks, even though they're just sitting at 500 now. I think people fully expect them to handle the Bears on Monday night to wrap up week 6 or week 7, I should say. And John noted, he said people keep doubting the Jets and they keep winning. He said, I know I'm guilty of it myself. He says it doesn't much like Zach Wilson's chances against Bill Belichick, but the Jets defense has been awesome and should keep them in the game. They always do. And I think that's reflected to a degree. A few things are reflected. One, I mean, it's not like the Jets lit the house on fire today. But the total sitting at 41 certainly reflects they're expecting the Jets defense to have an impact in this game and maybe allow them to hang around. But yes, the initial move opens Pick'em Superbook, goes real quickly to Patriots -1.5 on this Sunday Eve for this game. That's next, one of the early kicks next Sunday.
Yeah, Jets winning ugly. So, in your experience, say for example, the Patriots beat the living crap out of the Bears tomorrow night on Monday Night Football. What impact could that have on this line if the Patriots win 30-10 tomorrow?
If the Patriots come, I mean, it's already heading their direction. I'm going to double check and just see if it hasn't moved any further. But if the Patriots come out and are impressive tomorrow, which I don't know. Honestly, I don't know why they wouldn't be. The Bears are awful. But if the Patriots win impressively, I wouldn't be surprised to perhaps see that tick up a little bit more. The Patriots, by the way, are laying 8 tomorrow night against the Bears at this point. And I'm just flipping through to find next week's game on here. Patriots Jets still sitting at Patriots -1.5 at the Superbook. Yeah, if the Patriots go out and win by 20 and dominate the game and look good, I wouldn't be surprised to, to see that tick up again. When a lot of books will take the Monday night game or the Sunday night game down while those teams are in action and then put it back up the next day. So this might, Patriots Jets might be off the board tomorrow night and go back up Tuesday morning. But yeah, if it's an impressive game, the odds makers react, and the bettors certainly react. As you noted a little bit earlier, the recency bias, and that'll be really recent. I wouldn't be surprised to see this tick up, a half a point or so, perhaps on Tuesday morning if the Patriots go out and hand it to the Bears. Same token, if the Patriots go out, especially if they bring Mac, it sounds like Mac Jones is going to play. If Mac Jones comes back, and Zappy's been all right. And I'm not saying they should have a quarterback controversy here. I'm just saying Zappy's been all right. If Mac Jones looks a little out of sorts, isn't really on his game, and it's not an impressive win, I think the opposite could potentially happen. It might slide back a little bit.
Our guy Pedro weighing in. He likes the Jets to win outright versus the Patriots next week. So I have no horse in the race as a Dolphins fan. Whatever would help the Dolphins in the standings, I guess. But we'll wish Pedro good luck if he makes that bet. So moving on here, the Battle of Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. This one figures to be in the mix for one of the biggest spreads of the week. Of course, the Steelers, their defense played well. What can you say? Their defense. The defense didn't allow a lot of points, but they also dropped like 4 interceptions tonight against the Miami Dolphins. And, I got to be fair. Like that was not a good game by my Miami Dolphins, but the Dolphins do not have a good defense. And the Patriots or the Steelers only managed to put up 10 points in that game. Like that was pretty rough. Now they're going against probably the best team in the NFC, at least according to records, coming off their bye. So how's this one shaping up?
Yeah, like you said, it's one of the bigger spreads at the Superbook. It didn't quite top the spread for the Bills, for the Packers Bills, but opened Eagles 10.5. And then this is one of the games, the Superbook, the way they operate is, the lines come out late Sunday afternoon, early Sunday evening for the following week's games. And then if either of those teams are involved in the Sunday night game, then that game comes off the board and goes back up Monday morning. So there was no movement before it came off, but it was Eagles 10.5, comes down. It'll go back up tomorrow morning. Pittsburgh didn't put up very many points. This may go back on the board, and the Packers may no longer be the largest underdog. This might go back up at 11 or 11.5 based on what they saw out of the Steelers tonight. And as John said, he said, this is a hell of a spot for the Steelers, having to go on the road against the undefeated Eagles, with the Eagles off their bye. He said, I don't anticipate much support for Pittsburgh here. And I'm sure he's probably pretty right about that. I don't think people are going to be lining up at the window to get down on the Steelers. It's going to, and that's another thing. They may get pushed up on this number just because people pile on the Eagles, and they'll have to, and they'll be trying to find, okay, where is the resistance point? Where will people actually put $1 on the Steelers? And it might be interesting to watch as they try to find that point.
Okay. Our guy Nathan Broderick weighing in. He said he loves the show. He won a 3-team parlay today. How should I play tomorrow's game? I'm not going to tell you that, Nathan, because I have a show called Chasing That Paper tomorrow at 11 Eastern. I got to do a show here in about 11 hours.
Yes, you were short sleep, man.
But tune into the show because I have a pick on the total, and Ian McMillan, my co-host, will have a pick on the side. So I don't want to give that away now. But we will talk about the Monday Night Football game before we wrap up here. But we have a few more Week 8 games that we want to touch on. So kind of an interesting game here. Cardinals, Vikings. Cardinals picked up it. You have to give them credit. A fairly impressive win. Andy Dalton helped them out quite a bit on Thursday Night Football with back-to-back pick sixes. Meanwhile, a Vikings team, I think they're kind of fraudulent if you dig into their stats, but they're 5-1 on the season. Kind of interesting with them. I don't think that they were as bad as their record indicated last season when they finished 8-9, but this season I don't think they're as good as their record indicates. So how are the lines shaping up for this one, Patrick?
Yeah, this one I'm checking, just checking for some fresh info from DraftKings here. Very early play on this, so it's not necessarily indicative of how the week is going to go out. But Vikings -4, 56% of early bets ticket count, and 56% of early money on the Cardinals at DraftKings right now. So they're slightly liking the Cardinals on the road, getting 4 points in this game. And I'm not sure if that was DK's opener or not, but that's what we're seeing on that. It's sort of an interesting game that I think people. I think the Vikings are potentially they're a good team and potentially a dangerous team. And the problem is we're trying to figure out what the hell the Cardinals are. We just don't know. I mean, this team started last season like a house of fire and then went forever without winning a home game until I believe just this past week. It was a stretch that went way back into last season. So they got DeAndre Hopkins back, maybe with another week under his belt and a little more reps with between him and Kyler Murray. Maybe that turns out to be a pretty good game come next Sunday. Could be. I mean, they'll be indoors on a fast track, which is certainly something that Murray and D-Hop like.
Yeah, the Vikings have had trouble pulling away from teams, right? And we've seen Arizona under Keith Kingsbury for some reason, or Kingsbury. They've been better on the road for some reason against the spread.
Yes.
Pedro chiming in here, just start tuning into you guys. You guys throw out knowledge and give a different edge to my picks. Thank you. Well, you're welcome, Pedro, and thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate that very much. So one game I want to ask you about here, Patrick. Two surprise teams so far this season. We've talked about them a couple times on the broadcast already. The New York Giants, who picked up a win today, and the Seattle Seahawks, who I was very impressed by today. They manhandled the Chargers in LA, and it was kind of funny, the line for the Giants-Jags today. A lot of people would have looked at that and know that that's a trap line, the Giants, and if you dig into the stats, not really indicative of a team that was 5-1 going into that game for the Giants. But hey, they win dirty, and they did it again today against Jacksonville. Meanwhile, if the season ended right now, Patrick, the third seed in the NFC would be none other than the Seattle Seahawks.
Wow.
So I got to ask you, how are the lines shaping up for this one?
Yeah, what I wanted to look at first, what I was kind of curious about is I'm going into Vegas Insider's odds page because of what I'm curious about is the look ahead line for this, is what this was sitting at several days ago. And it's pretty similar. Seattle 1.5. I think we're seeing 1.5s and 2s tonight. So it looks like it's not really that much different. Maybe, going back through a couple of different sports books, and pretty much 1.5s was the look ahead line. I was just curious whether it was much different based on what both of these teams did today. But yeah, definitely teams that are overperforming. It sounds like Seattle is approaching what was anticipated as its season win total already. I think it was maybe 6, and so they're off to a good start. Looking right now, and again, very early, limited amount of money here, limited amount of tickets, so this could represent very little here. But Seahawks sitting -2 at DraftKings right now. 56% of tickets on the Seahawks, 86% of early money on the Seahawks. But again, that could be a very limited pot. Yeah, well, it is a very limited pot, and because of that may be 86% of not very much. So wait and see how that unfolds. I think the Giants are the Giants have already become a public team. Scott Shelton at BetMGM Nevada was telling me last night ahead of these today's games, the Week 7 games. The Giants have definitely, the public is totally in on the Giants. You've got sports betting going mad now that it's legal and regulated in New York. And granted, it picked up last season in New York, but it wasn't until late in the playoffs before it really got rolling. The Giants and the Jets weren't involved in that at all. Now you've got both the Giants and the Jets good in the largest legal regulated market in the country, and bettors are going to the counter or on their app with money in both fists ready to go. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that the Giants get some love here. But as you pointed out, the Seahawks are looking better than expected, a lot better than people expected, and they are at home.
Yeah, I tweeted out earlier in the week that a competing sub company should hire Geno Smith to counter the Subway Russell Wilson ads. I think that'd be a smart move. Geno Smith, he's playing pretty good this season. You got to give him credit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of so. It's funny with that game against the Jaguars today because almost every single smart bettor that I know, whether people just friends or people from social media, everyone was on the Jags today, right? And,
the sharp guys were on the Jags, no question.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out. And the Giants, it kind of defies logic. Like I said, when you dig into some of these stats, they get a lot of breaks. They're winning a lot of these one-score games, right?
Mm-hmm. No question. It's been it's interesting with the Giants, and definitely more a public team. And as you pointed out, definitely the sharp guys were on the Jags, but the public just loves what they're they love the story, I guess, as much as anything. They're not diving into, as you said, they're not doing the deep dive on this. They're just kind of seeing the results, seeing the record. So they're seeing the final score, they're seeing the record, jumping on the story with both the Giants and the Jets. They were both very popular today.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to the Week 8 Monday Night Football game before we discuss the Week 7 Monday Night Football game, which will be tomorrow. So Bengals at Browns. Obviously you got to figure that the Bengals are going to be favored in this one. Maybe hitting their stride a little bit here. Maybe a little bit of I don't know if you want to call it a Super Bowl hangover, but definitely a sluggish start to the season for them. But an impressive game on maybe a breakout game offensively for them. It ran a track meet today on the Falcons.
Yes.
So what is the line for this game in Cleveland?
Yeah, track meet indeed. Joe Burrow had a big game. A couple of Jamar Chase and a couple of the wideouts had monster games. So that's their get right game as they finally get above 500. The defending AFC champs take 7 games into the season to first get above 500, get above the waterline here. John Murray said, "Look, we opened Bengals -3. Haven't seen a whole lot yet. It's a Monday night game, so it's going to get some play, but." He doesn't think it's going to be, relative to most Monday night games. He thinks this one might be a little lacking, and I get it. I mean, Bengals Browns doesn't really jump out to you. Although, look, the Browns have been competitive almost every week this season, and as we alluded to, you noted a little bit earlier, they gave Baltimore trouble. Well, Baltimore tends to give itself trouble is the biggest problem, but Cleveland darn near took advantage of it. Certainly had the opportunity to take advantage of it to potentially force overtime or maybe even win that game. But John just doesn't think this is going to attract too much in the way of, relative to other Monday night games. And he notes it's going to be up against the World Series. However, he did say, I'm sure we will need the Browns here. He thinks they're going to, what does come in is going to come in on the Bengals. And if there's parlays or money line parlays, etc., running, live from Sunday, those are probably going to roll to the Bengals on Monday night.
Okay, so before we get into tomorrow night's Monday Night Football game between the Bears and the Patriots, I want to put you on the spot here, ask you any significant movement on totals, and how does that usually compare to the movement that we see on spreads right away, right when the line's open?
Yeah, there's nothing of the games that I threw at John tonight. Didn't see much in the way of movement on any of these totals, which is kind of interesting. It doesn't mean some of the games, some of the lesser lights games that we didn't touch on, doesn't mean that those haven't seen something. But it certainly happens. But in the case of the games we kind of focused on tonight, not much. I mean, maybe there might have been a half a point move here or there on these. It doesn't seem like we saw a whole heck of a lot. I mean, it certainly happens, but it seems like generally, and I'm sure you speak to this, and each day on your show and you experience it, is that these odds makers are generally pretty darn dialed in on spreads and totals, especially once you've got a body of work, 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season. But they do they do slip up here, and like for example, having that. Having that Jets pick, they felt, Patriots bettors right away were like, you're going to, pick? Absolutely. Sign me up. And they were on right away, and they moved 1.5 points. Now, granted, it's only from pick to 1.5. It's not like you're going through a key number or anything, but, and that happens on the total sometimes as well. I just don't, I should probably focus on it a little more and see it, but I know it doesn't seem to happen quite as much where they want to jump on the total right away.
Okay, let's wrap with the Week 7 finale. Monday Night Football. Not really a sexy game, That's fitting the theme of primetime football here lately. They should just throw Patrick Mahomes in a primetime game every week. We won't have a whole lot to complain about. But Bears versus Patriots, some pretty good momentum. It looks like Mac Jones probably coming back. So, what is the lineup for the game now? How has it moved, and what is the impact, if any, of Mac Jones over Zappi?
Right. I think this was a 7 opener. Might have been 7.5, but it's up to 8. Patriots -8. Looking fresh numbers, and I'm actually going to refresh just to make sure I've got the freshest stuff here. But at DraftKings, yeah, it actually did change just slightly. But basically, tickets a little bit beyond 2-1 and money a little bit beyond 2-1 on the spread on the Patriots. That's at DraftKings. I was checking earlier today, and granted, a lot can happen all day long Sunday, but generally what happens all day long Sunday is not on the Monday night game. I had Jason Scott, BetMGM's vice president of trading, tell me several weeks ago, he's like, we get like maybe 3 to 5% of the money we're going to get on the Monday night game arrives, on or before Sunday. He said it all comes in on Monday. Now, that said, there is some money running to probably more above and beyond that 3 to 5%. He's more talking about straight bets, I think, because obviously parlays, money line parlays, teasers, anything that lived through today is probably going to run. It's almost certainly going to run to the Patriots tomorrow night. So that's going to factor into it as well. But the bulk of the money is going to come in tomorrow. But that said, I saw earlier today from Caesar Sports that it was like 80% plus of tickets and more than 90% of early money was on the Patriots in this game at Caesars. So they're going to, there's no question the books are going to need the Bears in probably a pretty big way tomorrow, especially if there's, if there's some money line parlay teasers and such live to the Patriots, which I guess there will be, especially with the Chiefs, because the Chiefs are always popular in those markets. And then if you rode the favorite tonight, did you get there? What the hell was the final score there? 16-10. They didn't cover, did they? Was it 16-10?
No, they did not.
They did not cover. Well, still moneyline parlays and teasers, you live through those. So those will run to the Patriots for sure. I would guess they'll need the Bears pretty good, but as you point out, not a really sexy game. So maybe that dampens the betting enthusiasm a little bit as well.
Okay, Patrick, I got one eye on the Astros-Yankees. Astros 1 out away from advancing to the World Series, where they would play the Phillies, who advanced today.
This is trouble for the books.
Okay, yeah, let's hear. I didn't know if you'd have anything, but let's hear what's the news.
This is bad, but look, I'm fine. It's good. The problem is I'm not necessarily saying it's good for the bettors because it's bad for the books. It's bad for the books because Mattress Mac has plowed millions and millions and millions of dollars into the Astros. I mean, in the report we have up at VegasInsider.com, which I'm going to have to update at some point this evening, if this matchup comes to fruition and we get the opening lines on the World Series, which I'm sure we will. He bet $3 million at Caesars back in May at 10-1. $2 million at BetMGM in July at 5-1, $1 million with Betfred in July at 5-1. So that right there is $45 million in liability. $30 million to Caesars, $10 million to BetMGM, and $5 million to Betfred. So look, it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but they're dying for the Yankees to stay alive here. They really wanted the Yankees to knock them out. And so they could cash in all that money. Now they're going to be, literally, praying for Philly. To that point, though, I think it's worth noting, and you can, you might be able to elaborate on this, being the betting man that you are, but you may find some value at some of these books that are sitting on a crap load of liability to the Astros. That may affect the way they price things out a little bit to try and just to try and get some Phillies money in there to offset this a little bit. You can't offset millions, but it's pretty hard to offset millions, I would say. But there may be some value in the series prices as the series price adjusts, as the series goes along. Game 1, game 2, etc. The in series price of the series price. There may be some value to be had because these books are probably going to be trying to manage their position, which right now is not a very good position.
Yeah, the Astros just advanced here right now.
There we go.
I'm happy to see it.
Live, everybody.
Like the Yankees. Yeah, there you go. You heard it here first on the NFL Week 8 Open the Lines report.
We
The
give you
Astros
everything at
against
Vegas Insider. We know.
exactly. So how does it work? I'll let you go here really quickly, but obviously it's different when you're betting money lines versus spreads, and we're talking, public money and whatnot. But I would
Mhm.
assume the Phillies are a very likable team, but they're going to be the
Absolutely.
underdog in this
Mhm.
series. So would they be like a public dog type of
I
situation,
think
or
I think the Phillies will be a public dog. Pennsylvania is a pretty ravenous betting state. Very ravenous sports fans. I have almost no doubt that Philly will be a public dog here, and that will help the books who are in this position. Now, there's a lot of books who aren't in this position, so they're probably pretty happy with this matchup. They didn't take a huge mattress mac bet, so they may be good to both these teams already, and they can just book the series in a way to figure out how they can maybe win a little bit more, cushion a little bit. But if the Phillies are a public dog and get pretty good play, which I think they will, I mean, still, I don't know how you offset a guy who's got 10, 3, 5. I hear he's in for like 10 million. I'm aware of 6 million of that. And I know there's a couple more bets out there. I think he's in for 10 million total. It's pretty hard to offset all that. But if the Phillies are a public dog, which I think they will be, I think they'll get pretty good play. Harper's a really popular guy. Philly's a good sports betting city. I think people still have an axe to grind with the Astros over the whole trash can thing and all that stuff. I think people don't like that team necessarily outside of Mattress Mac and the Houston population. And by the way, Mattress Mac is a good guy. I've talked to him a few times. I've met him a few times. He's a nice guy.
that's what I hear.
So
does a lot for the community down there. So yeah, I'm rooting for the Phillies. But if Mattress Mac can cash in 45 mil, that's pretty cool too.
It's going to be something else. It'll be the highest. That bet with Caesars will be the largest payout of a legal regulated sports bet in U.S. history.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I'm sure you'll have more on the World Series as that develops and season or series prices open up in Game 1.
Yep.
And figure out who's starting. I'd imagine Verlander versus Nola. But until then, Patrick, you're a busy guy. You got a lot coming up. So what can we look forward to from you at Vegas Insider?
Pretty quickly here, like tonight, in the next, hopefully within the next half hour or so, we'll have the NFL Week 8 opening line report article in which this whole live stream will be embedded at some point, probably tomorrow. So if you missed any of it, you can catch it on there, or you can catch it, obviously, at Vegas Insider's YouTube channel, or go check it out as we've got it tweeted out on Vegas Insider's Twitter feed. So the article will be up. That article updates all week long. So you might want to bookmark it, check back throughout the week. I check in with different odds makers all week long, and we just add to it so you can kind of see how games develop all week long. Have a similar article tomorrow, probably tomorrow afternoon for College Football Week 9. Got a few interesting matchups there and again, that article will evolve throughout the week. And as you pointed out, some World Series coming together.
Yes.
And also, what else? Oh, we're 1 month out from the World Cup. We're gonna have a World Cup article up in the next the next day or so. So a little bit of that. I got a million things going on, just like you do. You're not gonna get any sleep tonight. You should let everybody know where to check you out in the morning here.
Well, I did my handicapping before. I sent all my picks in for the show tomorrow, so as long as the lines don't move too much, I'm all right. So I'm going to get a little bit of sleep here, but I hope to get back down to Vegas soon. I mean, you can have another steak dinner. That's the last time. The first time and the last time.
I like the company steak dinners.
Yeah, expense it right back to the company. Whining and dining. Well, not quite whining. Drinking nice cold beer and
absolutely.
Eating some steak. But yeah, tune in to Chasing That Paper tomorrow morning at 11 Eastern. Ian McMillan will be with me. Ian, actually, I got to give him credit. He predicted when we did our World Series picks. I predicted it would be the Astros over the Braves. He predicted it would be the Astros over the Phillies. So there you go. Credit to Ian. I'm sure he's watching right now. But yeah, tune in. We're going to have a preview of the Monday Night Football game. We're going to be talking some hockey, some NBA as well, Chasing That Paper right here on the Vegas Insider YouTube channel. Patrick, we'll let you get to work. Everyone who is watching, thank you very much. Good luck with your bets in Week 8.
Thank you.